One of my favourite places to shoot portraits is the arcade, and I've been shooting arcade photos for a while now. But it took me years to achieve a result that I'm finally satisfied with, so today I'm going to share with you my top 5 tips for arcade photography that I wish I knew back when I first started out. Tip number 1 is to shoot in RAW, and I would say this is arguably the most important tip in this entire video because back when I first started out, I shot only in JPEG and I had no idea what RAW was. But once I started shooting in RAW, it completely revolutionized the way I took my photos and edited them and took my photography to the next level. RAW is an image file format that essentially captures a lot more information than a JPEG image does. This means that when I shoot in RAW, I'm preserving a lot more information that can be processed later on in a photo editing app like Lightroom. When I bring up the exposure of this JPEG image here, it looks really bad. But when I bring up the exposure of this RAW image, you can see how a lot of the details are still preserved and I can brighten my image without compromising on quality. This brings me to tip number 2, which is to underexpose your image. Underexposing your image means intentionally taking a darker photo by allowing less light into your camera sensor. This allows you to do 2 things. 1. Shoot at a lower ISO so you don't introduce too much noise into your image. And 2. Shoot at a higher shutter speed so you introduce less image blur from your shaky hands or shaky model. Now the photo might look too dark at first, but that's okay, because since we are shooting in RAW, we can easily hop into our photo editing app and increase the shadows and exposure to bring back all those details and brighten up our image. Tip number 3 is to use a lens with a lower aperture value. I almost exclusively shoot at arcades using this 50mm 1.8 lens. Having a lower aperture value means that your camera lens can open wider to allow more light in per given unit of time. Again, this allows you to shoot at lower ISO and higher shutter speeds in the dark conditions of the arcade. Additionally, lower aperture lenses also give you that nice background blur, giving you more separation between the subject and the background. Tip number 4 is to use your surroundings. One way to get around the poor lighting conditions in the arcade is to position your subject near to a light source. In a lot of my arcade photos, I chose to position my subject with the face facing or near to a game machine so that the face is lit up by the light from that machine. This way, the focus of the photo, which is the subject's face, is well exposed in the final shot. Another way to make use of your surroundings is to position yourself in such a way that the background behind your subject adds depth to your photo. One way I like to do this is to find an angle where there are a lot of lights behind the subject. Combined with a low aperture lens, this provides a very nice bokeh effect from the blurred out lights. Number 5. Make use of props. The number 1 prop I love to use in all my arcade shots is the prism. I love to use the prism to create some really nice reflections of the lights in the arcade. It takes some time to get used to, but believe me, it's worth it and you can pick one up online for quite an affordable price. So that pretty much wraps up my 5 arcade photography tips. I hope you guys found this video useful and I'll see you in the next one.